Hey guys, it is a Monday night and I actually wasn't going to jump on it and do one of these today, but I was sitting down tonight and I just felt like I really wanted to jump on live and just have a chat about something, and I didn't know what I was going to chat about, but this morning when I was asking my soul like how I could be of the highest service today, this is the topic that popped up, which is really strange. Like, it's one of those topics that I've had hey mom, it's one of those topics that I've had written in the notes section of my phone for ages to do a Facebook Live on spiritual warfare, but I haven't actually gotten around to it just because I thought it was maybe too controversial, or I didn't really know what I wanted to say. But this is clearly what my soul wants me to talk about tonight, so I'm just gonna see what it wants me to say and what information wants to come through me tonight. I'm just ready to be a total vessel for whatever wants to be communicated. So yeah, I got my hair done today, so it's a lot more ashy than I usually go, but it's going to blend a little bit more when I wash it and it'll go a bit more golden. But I'm really in love with it and I really like it, and I've got that beautiful fresh like hair smell and feeling, and it's just really nice, you know. I don't know if that's just a girl thing, but yeah, I really enjoy it. Okay, so this topic of spiritual warfare, I was first introduced to this topic when I started going to church about like 3 years ago. Oh, it was probably more than that now. It was like 2013, so 4 years ago. And I was going through all these like massive changes and shifts in my life. I was experiencing some really hectic stuff in church. Like, I was getting prayed over, I was seeing visions, I was like having like spiritual experiences is really the only way that I can put it. Just like these crazy experiences, like things just kept happening to me, and it was like I could feel myself shifting, I could feel myself changing on like an energetic level, and it was blowing my mind. Like, not only were my thoughts changing, but my behaviors were changing as a result, and like really quickly, like literally overnight. Like, I would walk in and I would walk out a completely different person, and these experiences started to like, it was really exciting because I'd been held back by so much shame and fear for so long. So for me to be like freed from all these things that were holding me back, these fears and this shame, it was just really exciting. And if you're here, say hello, just comment so I can see you and say hello. And then what started happening is I started to get all this resistance, and I started to feel all of this. It was almost like this, I got sick quite a bit, and I started getting waves of like doubt, like self-doubt, and like really crippling self-doubt that would just keep me like in bed. I started getting just all these things, really weird things started happening to me. And I spoke to one of my friends about it, and it was things that were clearly like they were trying to, it's not that they were trying to, but these things were things that would keep me small. Like, there were things that really, hey Jeremy, hey Ruby, hey gorgeous girl. So all these weird things started happening to me, and I spoke to one of my friends about it. She was like an older woman that also went to the same church that I went to, and she introduced me to this concept. And this concept, like, as with anything that I speak about, you guys, like, if this makes sense to you, take it on board. If it doesn't, just leave it. Like, this is a concept that can be articulated in so many different ways. Like, the battle between good and evil, we've seen it in movies, we've seen it in music, we've seen it you know, written in the history books for as long as like time, you know, like it's a tale as old as time itself. But this is just one way that I found of articulating it and of expressing it that's really helped me in my journey, and that's really been instrumental to me in helping me to grow and move forward even when things get really tough. So she introduced me to this concept of spiritual warfare, and when I did a bit of study and research into it, because I'm one of those people that likes to, I don't just take things at face value, I really like to do my research, and then at the end of the day, like, I'm going to take it on if it feels good to me. Like, I'll meditate on it, I'll just see how it sits, I'll apply it in my own life and see if it works and see if it holds up. If it does, I'll take it on board and adopt it as part of my practice. If not, I'll just let it go. And I would so encourage anyone that's on this journey to just do that. Like, there's so many people wanting to tell you what to believe, and there's so many people, you know, shoving things down your throat. Just take what feels good and leave the rest. Honest to God, like, I think it was it the Dalai Lama that said, like, oh, Buddha, I don't know, some amazing spiritual teacher said that just take what makes sense to you, even if I've said it. If it doesn't sit well with you, just let it go. But this is something that really sat well with me. So she explained to me this concept of spiritual warfare, and basically it's as though there's this force that exists that wants to stop us from becoming all that we're meant to be in the world. So if you think of it as the battle between like good and evil, heaven and hell, like the ego and the higher self, there's a part of us that wants to be, I call it the part of us with wings, or like our higher self. There's a part of us that wants to realize our full potential in the world. There's a part of us that wants to become the highest expression of our truth. There's a part of us that is kind and compassionate and good and caring and wants to be, you know, fulfill our purpose and be everything that we were born to be. But in opposition to that exists a force that tries to keep us small. It's a force that tries to prevent us from doing the work that we're meant to do in the world. And it manifests in so many different ways. In Christianity, they talk about the enemy, or like the devil. In Stephen Pressfield's books, he talks about it as being like resistance, like the force that prevents us from doing our creative work in the world. So it's this, in like in Eastern religions, we talk more about like the ego. The ego wants to keep us small. So it's something that we've seen across like all different faiths, but basically it's this idea that there exists a force that wants to keep us small. And what I've found is that it's been so true in my own life. Like I've seen it pop up time and time again. And I refer to it as my ego, or the inner critic, but basically it's almost like, I think of it now as like this lethal force that tries to stop me from doing what I'm meant to do in the world. It's very real, and it's almost like it attacks me where it's going to hurt the most. So for me, and I like to think of it as like, it helps me to personify it, because then it sort of takes the power away, because this is something that can be very real for me, like when I'm in it. For me, it manifested itself as like a mental illness. So for example, I am someone that's like, I consider myself highly intelligent, and I am someone that really values critical thinking. Like to me, my mind is like almost my superpower. So to me, like the biggest attack or the biggest assault on what I'm here to do would be to attack my mind, which is exactly what happened. You know, I developed a mental illness, depression, anxiety, that sort of thing. So it's almost like it's hitting you where it hurts the most, and where it knows it can do the most damage and do whatever it can to take you out of the game. And if you think about it, and this might resonate with some, it might completely miss the mark for others. If you think about it as like a battle that's going on in the heavens, or a battle that exists on like the metaphysical plane in the spiritual world between like the forces of good and the forces of darkness. And you know, in reality, we know that there is no such thing as darkness. It's just an illusion, and all that exists is good and love and light. And we come from the metaphysical world of the infinite into the physical world of the relative, so we can experience that duality. But if it helps you to, because we do live in a binary, like a world of binaries, we do live in a world where darkness exists. So if it helps you to think of like what's happening on an energetic or a metaphysical level as being like this battle for good and evil, then you can sort of think about yourself as being inherently good, but being almost opposed by a metaphysical force. And I don't say this in order to like freak people out or to have you checking for like monsters under the bed, but it's almost just really helpful. I know for me at least, hey Hayley, hey gorgeous, it's really helpful for me at least to have a name or to have an explanation for what's going on when I don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning, for what's going on when all of my motivation all of a sudden disappears. It helps me to have an explanation for what's going on when I feel like there's this just thick fog around me. And that's one of the symptoms that I had when I first started on this spiritual journey. It was almost like just, I had all this clarity and it was amazing, it was beautiful, I was like running towards my goals, hey Hayley, and then it was almost like this, hey Jody, hey beautiful, and it was almost like this thick fog just descended, and I couldn't see where I was going. I lost all of my clarity. It was like this just fog enveloped me completely. And for me, that was just like this, I was so confused at the time, and it wasn't until my girlfriend told me about this concept of spiritual warfare that I was like, you know what, that makes so much sense to me, right? It makes so much sense for me to personify it in this way as being like this spiritual battle that's going on against good and the forces of good and evil. And there's two sides that are trying to compete for our attention. And I know, like I've talked about how we see this in Christianity, we see it in Eastern religions, we can also see it in like a Native American tradition as well. I know there's this beautiful parable about, I wrote about this in one of my emails the other week, between like a grandfather is talking to his grandson about the battle between the two wolves, and he's saying like, you know, grandfather, I feel this battle between me, like one wolf is like compassion and goodness and light and beauty, and then the other wolf is like anger and greed and sadness and envy, like which, they're locked in this constant battle, like which wolf wins? And the grandfather just says, the one that you feed. So this idea that there's two opposing forces like competing for our attention, or almost competing for our life, has been seen through like, you know, yeah, it's as old as time itself. It's been seen through cultures, through religions, through spiritual traditions. And I just want to bring it forward in a way that maybe makes makes sense in like our modern context, because that's what I'm all about, and that's really what I'm here to do, is to translate like ancient wisdom into a way, into a language that resonates with the new generation, because I feel like this stuff is so important and it has so much value. There's a lot of unnecessary crap around religion and around a lot of different traditions that we can let go of now, and it's totally fine, we don't need it anymore. But there is so much wisdom and there is so much good truth and value to a lot of like ancient spiritual texts and traditions that I feel like we need to preserve and we need to hold on to, and we need to almost like bring it into bring it to the new generation. So that's what I'm trying to do. So with this concept of spiritual warfare, sorry, my computer just went black, that's why it went all dark. So I just want you to think about in your own life, like, where are you being attacked? Like, where is like the opposing force, whether you want to think of it as your ego or resistance or the enemy or whatever, however that really works for you, your inner critic. Where is that trying to take you out of the game, and how does it do it? So for me, like I said before, it was my mind. It was by attacking my mind and trying to make me sever the relationship between me and my mind, so that I couldn't trust my thoughts, because my thoughts were my superpower. So I went into my body and I learned to trust my body. Then it was about my body. So it was about detaching me from my body, almost like taking me out of it by making me feel insecure about my physical form, right? So we see body image issues in young girls and guys, and even like, you know, as we get into as we develop in later stages of life, we still hold on to these issues that have the ability to hold us back from what we're meant to do in the world. And to me, there's no greater evil and there's no greater tragedy than preventing someone from doing what they're meant to do in the world. So I just want you to think about in your own life, like, what is it, where is it attacking you? And if there was a force that wanted to take you out of the game, that wanted to stop you from doing what you're meant to do in the world, that wanted to stop you from spreading your message, that wanted to stop you from shining your light, where would it attack you and what would it do? Like, what would it have to say to you? What would it have to do to you? And then recognize where that's showing up in your life at the moment. Are you, like, for me, it was for ages I didn't get professional photos done on my website because my mind and my body was telling me, no, like, you're too big, no, you don't look good, like, you're not pretty enough, blah blah blah, all these different things, these lies that this force or this energy or myself, this part of me, was telling myself to stop me from going big, because I knew that the second I stepped out in faith and the second I actually did that, my business would blow up, because people could connect with me on a new level. It was just a whole new level that I was being called to. And that's what happens, is when we're being called to up level, whether it's in our business, whether it's in our lives, whether it's in our relationship, that's when this resistance, that's when this force wants to strike the most, because we're already scared out of our mind. But it knows, and the ego knows, like, the ego knows as soon as you up level, as soon as you step out in faith, as soon as you take that risk, as soon as you make that leap, you're not going to listen to its insane ramblings anymore. So it tries to get you right as you're about to take that leap. That's why so many of us are stuck. Like, I say that in air quotes, because we're never really stuck. We always have the choice to move forward. We get stuck in these certain areas and we develop these stories like, oh, I'm not really good at follow through, or I never really can commit to anything, oh, I have all these amazing ideas, but like I always stop and never like put them into the world. It's all resistance. It's all the ego. It's all the enemy. It's all just this spiritual battle that's going on in a metaphysical and an energetic level to stop you from realizing your full potential. And a lot of people, and you know, I can think about this in so many different ways. It really doesn't matter what resonates with you. Some people think of it on like a subconscious level. So I talked about this a few weeks ago, like this idea of self-sabotage. So there's a part of us that doesn't really truly believe that we're worthy of experiencing new levels of joy and success and abundance. So we'll do whatever we can to like bring ourselves back to a level of like that we feel comfortable and safe with. It doesn't matter which way you want to frame this. It doesn't matter which way you want to think about this. It's the exact same concept. It's just explained in different ways. And I know that this spiritual warfare way was really beneficial for me to actually like personify it and to say, you know what, there is actually a force that I can feel almost trying to take me back into darkness. And I know for those of us that have experienced like depression, anxiety, addiction, we've been to those deep dark places. We know that, you know, we know that evil exists because we've stared it straight in the face. And we feel like, you know, there was a time in my life where I really felt like I was embodying that. Like there was a part of me that really just wanted to hurt people. There was a part of me that really just wanted to inflict hurt upon others. And it was just a reflection of the hurt that I was feeling inside, you know, like I just wanted to project and get rid of like a hot potato with your pain, you know what I mean? Like when you've got so much pain, you don't want to hold on to it. So you try and pass it on. And there was a part of me that really did want to hurt others. And it was because I was in the darkness, you know what I mean? Like I was being overcome, or I was being taken over almost by the darkness. And what I had to do was slowly sort of exercise that out of myself. And I say that like literally an exorcism. I didn't actually do an exorcism, but lots of like little mini ones, seriously, like these spiritual experiences that I went through to sort of like cleanse, and then so I could embody the light. And now I can't, you know, I wouldn't even envision like hurting another living being. Like you know, my compassion has just been reawakened. And that's the thing, like compassion isn't, I really don't think that it's something we need to develop. I believe that we're inherently compassionate, and it's just something we need to unlock, and it's just something we need to release. So I hope this has been really helpful. I just sort of feel like I had no idea that any of that was going to come out, honest to God. Like I literally just said this morning, what do you want me to talk about today, to my soul? And this is the topic that came up. So obviously I was meant to speak about it. Obviously someone was meant to hear it. I don't know, if it was you, send me a message so we can chat about it some more. But I really hope this has been helpful. Honestly, it's like one of those things, if it makes sense to you, take it on board. If it doesn't, just leave it. Like there's so many other ways to think about this. This is just one that really resonated for me, and I really hope that it resonated for you too. So yeah, just look at areas in your life, like where are you being held back from doing the things that you meant to do, and how can you expose the lie? Because that's what it is. It's a lie. That voice in your head telling you you can't do it. That voice in your head telling you you're not enough. That voice in your head telling you that that everyone will think you're crazy. Like it's a lie, right? It's telling you lies to try and keep you small. And when you step out and when you actually do the damn thing, you realize just how much of a lie it was and just how incorrect it was. And even if those things happen, even if people call you crazy, even if you fall flat on your face, you realize you don't care, and you realize you survive, and you realize that it's all going to be okay, and it's all worth it, you know, to become the person you were meant to be, to fulfill your potential in the world. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. So yeah, don't believe the lie. You know, you're here for a reason. You're here for an incredible freaking reason, a purpose greater than you or I can ever imagine right now. And don't let anything stop you from realizing your full potential and bringing to the world your highest truth. All right. I love you guys. Sweet dreams. Bye.